10 Down WJ presents Echoes of the Soul. As Brother Boone cruised the city in the ice-cold morning, the streets illuminated by a cacophony of lights, all he could hear was the voice echoing in his head, "It's getting hard for me to ignore the spiritual part of me that wants to hear Christ and not just lyrical artistry." The city pulsed around him, alive with the rhythms of hip-hop beats and the whispers of street preachers, each vying for his attention in a world that felt increasingly fragmented. Brother Boone had spent years navigating the duality of his existence, a man of faith in a world that often seemed to mock it. As a mentor in the community, he was expected to embody the teachings of Christ, yet every day felt like a struggle against the tide of temptation and doubt. The allure of the vibrant nightlife, the seductive lyrics of the latest rap tracks, and the stories of his friends who found solace in the streets instead of the pews constantly tugged at his spirit. This morning, the chill in the air was sharper, and with it came a reflection on his own journey. Boone turned the volume down on the radio, letting the beats fade into the background. He could feel the weight of expectations pressing against him, the expectations of his congregation, of his family, and most importantly, of himself. He was supposed to be the beacon of hope, a guiding light for those lost in the darkness, but he found himself grappling with an internal battle that felt all too familiar. He drove through the heart of the city, past the bars and clubs where laughter mingled with the sound of clinking glasses. The streets were filled with people, some seeking joy, others fleeing pain. He saw a group of young men huddled together, their laughter ringing out like a siren's call. Boone felt a pang of longing. He missed the camaraderie of his youth, the nights spent rapping with friends beneath the stars, dreaming of a life that felt within reach. But those dreams had been overshadowed by the responsibilities of adulthood. As a mentor, he had chosen a path of service, yet he felt increasingly disconnected from the very community he sought to uplift. The juxtaposition of his faith and the world around him felt like an insurmountable chasm, one he was desperate to cross. As he pulled up to a familiar corner, he spotted a small group of young adults gathered near a graffiti-covered wall. They were rapping, their voices rising and falling in a rhythm that drew him in like a moth to a flame. Boone parked the car and stepped out, the cold air biting at his skin, but he hardly noticed. What mattered was the music, the raw energy that crackled in the air. "Yo, Brother Boone," one of the bros called out, a grin breaking across his face. "You here to drop some bars?" Boone chuckled, a mix of pride and hesitation swelling in his chest. He had always been the one to encourage the others, to remind them of their potential. But right then, he wasn't sure if he had it in him to join their ranks. "I'm just here to listen," he replied, leaning against the wall. The group continued to rap, their words weaving tales of struggle, hope, and resilience. Boone closed his eyes, letting the rhythm wash over him, feeling the resonance of truth in their lyrics. They were speaking of their lives, their battles, and their dreams. In that moment, he understood that they were searching for something greater, just as he was. One of the bros, a gifted lyricist named Malik, caught Boone's eye. He had a spark in his eyes that reminded Boone of his own younger self. Malik's verses were filled with longing, an expression of the spiritual void that many of them felt. "We're just trying to find our way, man," he said, his voice raw with emotion. "Sometimes it feels like we're lost in this world, you know. Like we're just chasing shadows." Boone's heart ached at Malik's words. He knew that feeling all too well. "I get that," he said softly, stepping closer. "But what if I told you that there's a way to find the light in the darkness?" The group fell silent, their eyes fixed on him. Boone took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his own struggles. "I've been where you are. I've chased dreams that led me astray, but I found my way back through faith. Christ is the answer you're looking for." Malik raised an eyebrow, skepticism etched on his face. "But what if faith isn't enough? What if it doesn't give us the answers we need?" Boone nodded, understanding the young man's doubt. Faith isn't a magic solution. It's a journey. It's about finding purpose and meaning in the chaos. It's okay to question, to seek. But don't let the noise drown out what your heart truly desires. As the day grew colder on, Boone shared his story, weaving together the threads of his past with the struggles of the young adults before him. They listened, captivated by the honesty of his words. In return, they opened up about their own struggles, their fears, and their dreams. The conversation flowed easily, the barriers that had once separated them slowly dissolving. "I've been thinking about starting a music program," Boone admitted, his voice filled with hope. "A place where you guys can express yourselves, where your voices can be heard. We can combine the artistry of hip-hop with messages of hope and faith." Malik's eyes lit up at the idea. "That could be dope. We could get the formerly incarcerated and homeless involved, too. It'd be a way to reach those who feel lost, just like us." Boone felt a surge of excitement. This was what he had been missing, a sense of community, a shared purpose. Perhaps this was the bridge he had been searching for, a way to connect the spiritual with the artistic. The thought of bringing together his two passions ignited a fire within him. As the group prepared to leave, Boone felt a sense of fulfillment wash over him. The cold morning air no longer felt so oppressive, instead, it felt invigorating. He had found a spark of hope, a reminder that the spiritual part of him could coexist with the lyrical artistry of the streets. The weeks that followed were filled with late nights and brainstorming sessions as Boone worked tirelessly to launch the music program. He reached out to local artists, securing a space where they could gather. The excitement among the young adults was palpable, and Boone felt a renewed sense of purpose. On the first night of the program, the community center buzzed with energy. Young adults filled the space, their laughter and chatter mingling with the sound of beats thumping in the background. Boone stood at the front, a mix of nerves and anticipation swirling within him. He had invited Malik and a few other talented artists to lead the session, and they were ready to share their gifts. As the night unfolded, Boone watched in awe as the young adults poured their hearts into their music. They rapped about their struggles, their dreams, and their faith. The lyrics flowed like a river, raw and unfiltered, a testament to the power of expression. Boone felt a profound connection to each story, each line resonating with his own journey. In that moment, he realized that the spiritual part of him was not separate from the artistry of their music, it was woven into the very fabric of their expression. The beats and the lyrics became a conduit for something greater, a shared experience of struggle, hope, and love. As the program grew, so did Boone's understanding of his own faith. He began to see Christ not just as a figure in a book, but as a living presence in the lives of those around him. The young adults he worked with were teaching him as much as he was teaching them, and he felt grateful for the lessons they shared. One night, as the program came to a close, Malik approached Boone with a thoughtful expression. "You know, man, you've changed the way I see things. It's like you opened a door I didn't even know was there." Boone smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him. "You all have opened my eyes, too. This journey is about all of us. We're in this together." As the weeks turned into months, the music program flourished, becoming a safe haven for young adults seeking solace in their creativity. Boone found himself embracing his role not just as a mentor, a friend, and a fellow traveler on the path of faith and artistry. One evening, as he drove home through the familiar streets of the city, he reflected on the transformation that had taken place, not just in the lives of the young adults he had worked with, but in his own heart as well. The voice that had once echoed in his mind began to fade, replaced by a new understanding. He no longer felt torn between the spiritual and the artistic, instead, he embraced both as vital aspects of his identity. As the winter chill settled over the city, Boone found solace in the realization that the journey was far from over. The streets still pulsed with life, the beats still echoed in the night, and the Spirit of Christ remained a guiding light in his heart. He understood that faith was not a destination but a lifelong journey, a journey filled with questions, struggles, and the beauty of connection. And as he cruised through the city, the ice-cold air no longer felt so isolating. Instead, it was a reminder of the warmth that resided within him, a warmth that came from embracing the spiritual part of himself while celebrating the lyrical artistry that surrounded him. In that moment, he knew he had found his place in the world, a bridge between two realms, a voice of hope in the chaos, and a reminder that even in the darkness, there is always a way to hear the echoes of the soul, leading one to repentance and a life holy and acceptable to God. 10 Down WJ, where creativity meets impact. 10 Down WJ, E.N.T.